Welcome, folks, to the 3v3 action. $300 show match between these two sides. On the left, we have got the familiar faces. We've already seen the 3v3 series. This was Hera, MarineLorD, and Capoch playing as France, England, and I believe, yes, Rus again. So MarineLorD absolutely loves doing this on Lipany. Meanwhile, on the other side, though, we'll get into the details of what people love to do afterwards. But on the other side, we actually have the Vietnam legends. We have ACCM in the red playing to England. A face that has actually featured on this channel before. Then we got VNS Cool playing in the yellow as the Rus. So we're going to have another person with the potential to tech up into Horse Archer spam. And then rounding out Team 2 is going to be Bact in the south in the purple, playing as France. So similar matchups, really. In fact, exact matchups. Both teams having an English, a Rus, and a French. So this is mirror matchup at its finest. You can argue about the placement of some of these fellas. For example, Capoch is in the south, while ACCM, the other English player in this game, is sitting in the center. So maybe that affects the flow a little bit. Because remember, the central player usually has a little bit more potential to eco-boom if they want. That's definitely the biggest detail I've noticed in these games, because usually there's a lot of ebb and flow towards these outskirts, right, where we see these fights engage on the sides, because you don't really want to be running your army straight down the center. Not only does it take longer to reach your opponent's base, but the other important detail you guys have to remember is that if you do that, you're basically exposing yourself in the flanks, right? You're putting yourself in the worst possible situation, because it means that you can be attacked from every direction, right? Like, you can have them come from the north, the south, they might even be able to wrap around the back, and that means you have nowhere to fall back to. And that's why it's quite dangerous to do, and why we won't see too much of it in these games. The one exception, of course, can be mobile cavalry, raiding type cavalry. So I think Horse Archers definitely comes to mind. Other ones would have been Magadai, but of course we haven't got any of the Mongols in this game, so we're not going to be seeing that this time around. But yeah, for those wondering about the scores at the top, as I've just fully adjusted them, HMC is, of course, Hera, MarineLorD, and Capoch. Just the, the first letters, basically. And then the right side is Vietnam Legends, as I'm probably sure you can guess. All these players are Vietnamese. Bact is an AoE 2 player. He's been active since 2007 at $30,000 under his belt. Actually really impressive, considering like the numbers I've seen in the Asian region, especially from like Vietnam players. I don't think there were that many that high. I mean, if we look at ACCM, for example, who's been kind of a noticeable Vietnamese player in the past, he's earned 28,000, so he's basically just behind that. And then rounding it out will be VNS Cool, who I think I've never seen this guy before. I've never even seen him on Age of Empires 4 before, so I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to play out. It doesn't look like he's even got a page, so we'll see if he actually is able to deliver, because I think he's going to be the one they're aiming all their focus towards, right? Like in terms of where they're going to invest, the hope of kind of, getting that tech advantage. Because usually it's the Rus player in this composition that techs up into the Castle Age, while the English and French players hang around in the feudal to be able to bring that aggressive force off the back of longbows and knights. And the cool thing about that is the knights are mobile enough to protect the longbows, and the longbows can then eventually build into the rams, and you can get an opportunity to potentially siege your opponent's base. Tech ups, looks like Hera and Capoch are going to be ahead. So already looking good for HMC, as they are already ahead of the Vietnam Legends. And I don't think we've got anything funky on the opening so far. It should be more or less standardized. Yep, Council Hall, School of Cavalry. We never really see these deviations. It kind of speaks volumes to the current state of the game in a lot of ways. I think France, there are some exceptions. Trade mainly on, I'd say, on the C maps. That's about it. Rus, there is never an exception. I think we've once, in the last month, seen someone build into a Kremlin, and that was basically because they were on the ropes crying in pain from the early harassment of their opponent. So it was a forced mistake, really, because it stops you from scaling at all. And then, of course, for England, the alternative of slowly healing your units around that Abbey of Kings just isn't really desirable. It sounds cool, but when you consider how wonky it can be, and it's going to be in your base anyway, it rarely gets the value that is intended. And also, if you're playing mainly into Lombos, they have access to campfires anyway, so they can passively heal regardless for a small tech price. So yeah. Maybe we'll see some switch up. Abbey of Kings, I don't know. I think Abbey of Kings needs something completely different right now. It just doesn't feel good ever. Maybe if there was a way to move it, but then you're basically stepping on the unique element of the Mongols, or one of the unique elements, right? And I don't know if I like that idea. Plus, how would it make sense to move an Abbey of Kings? That's a giant castle. It's different to moving a Gur, So things calm for the moment, but the Lombos should be building on both sides, and it looks like Pro Scout-wise, we are going to see the French players and the Rus players playing towards that, as they always do. What's the bounty system looking like right now for those two? So MarineLorD currently sitting up at 470, almost cracking that third tier. Really big booster if you can get there. And VNS Cool is just 5 away, so overall looking really good for both of them. The other thing I'm kind of looking to see is if the English players actually look for a transfer and give over resources. One thing that the English players could have done here is they could have, for example, given their sheep over. This is what we're talking about, like next level stats. That's what I love to think about in these free feeds. The English players could have actually given their sheep over to the teammates, and then their teammates would have that additional food surplus while they switch over to farms. Because remember, England can switch over to farms very easily. Of course, the reason I don't necessarily expect on this map is because the way these openings are stylized, you want to have as much aggression immediately as the English Lombo player, right? And if you slow down to produce into farms, you're going to have a few less Lombowmen pushing out at the beginning of the game. And that might be the outnumbering factor that makes you the force being overwhelmed, right? Right now, is it because ACCM just pounding out on the count? Yeah, he is. Okay, so he's vastly ahead on the Lombo count right now. Yeah, it's 2 groups. What? Did they trade resources? No, they must have. I can't figure any other way why Capoch is this poor on the military front compared to ACCM. ACCM just has so many Longbowmen already. Like, look at the count, guys. Capoch sitting at 17, ACCM. Okay, so where's the second group? Am I blind? Okay, there it is. They'd already gone ahead. Ignore me and my ramblings of an idiot. Sometimes it's very hard to actually see the icons now. I don't know. Just give me a big mini-map. I don't know why we don't have that option. I'd love to have that option. Coming from like the Dota background where we actually have an option to increase the size of our mini-map, I would love to see that. Because I love that they actually made the icons less intrusive, but I do feel like it's very easy, especially when you're talking about above 1v1s, to miss these details on the map. Hell, we had a 3v3 the other day where I couldn't quite see a wonder in the corner because it was kind of overlapped by a bunch of structures and landmarks. So that's kind of the situation you're dealing with. So Lombo's backing up. They get caught out by Hera's Knights already, and that is going to allow Capoch to gain more ground here. And he's looking a bit scary. They're moving straight towards ACCM. I think they want to pivot off. Remember what we said. You never want to engage the central player. It just exposes your flanks, and especially with a Lombo army, means you'll never be able to run away. And all that harassment covers MarineLorD for exactly this. Abbey of Trini is going to be complete already for him. On the other side, the Rus player... What? VNS? What? Well, he's already built the archery ranges, but he doesn't have the required gold. Oh my god. Okay, that is what we call more than a small kerfuffle, folks. He has to go across and start mining as a Rus player because he didn't calculate correctly and he didn't trade the right quantity. Wait, what? This makes even less sense. He literally has 4 charges. VNS, no! Okay, so he is going to be notably behind MarineLorD. MarineLorD's going to have maybe 6 horse archers out by the time he's churning them out himself. And that's a sort of edge in a mirror-mirror matchup, even in a 3-3, that can make a huge difference here, especially when the Rus players are directly across from each other. Yeah, that... I mean, I said I hadn't seen much of VNS, so I don't know how much he's been playing in this game. And now I'm really starting to wonder when he has 5 supply charges built up in his Golden Gate that still have not been spent. And remember, he had surplus wood at the time. He could have afforded it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this should just go with the Scrooge building at this point. Starting to think VNS is just getting Guildhall mixed up, right? It's like, oh yeah, just store the charges, I get more value, right? Because this is a big deal, guys. It seems like I'm harping on, but look at the count right now. How many are we up to? So it looks like MarineLorD didn't go hardcore yet, but he's starting to build up. It's going to be at least a 6 horse archer advantage over VNS. And the reason this is important is that's the difference between running this gap, right, with horse archers. Almost the difference, because remember, if you can just sustain about 3, it takes 22 seconds to produce those horse archers. So he's going to have an edge over you. And wow, VNS now going into the TC. This is very greedy. You're essentially a frontline player. The problem is he doesn't feel like it, because look what's been happening from HMC. They've stationed their army in a stealth forest between the other 2 players. So they're nowhere near VNS. So VNS feels confident he can get away with this. And he might be right at this rate. Especially with the pressure coming out. Look at the Mountain Knights. Gonna scare them off. Hera matches the numbers now, but the Lombos have taken heavy casualties here. Now 5 deficit for Capoch means he's going to have to back up continuously. But the Lombos, I love this. This is so well played by ACCM. Notice he keeps switching. He keeps formation shuffling, so he gets a few in range and gets another volley of arrows off. And it nets him 1 or 2 extra kills in the process. Anyone on the north? Archer's moving in. MarineLorD, I don't know if he's scouted this out yet, but he's going to know soon, and he has to punish this. He can't allow his opponent to get away with this greed. And in the center, engagement. Knights baiting around a little bit. A lot lost for Bact, though. What happened? Oh my god, the Longbows are just sniping him down so easily. This is going to open a gap in a moment for Hera. Hera does engage. Scouts here as well, trying to hold them back from reaching the Longbow army of ACCM. But Hera, if he wants, could just wrap on this right now. There it is, going to force out the retreat. Start steps, ACCM trying to slay as many as he can on the retreat. But the scouts are going to chase straight in and try to engage them along with these knights. And it means it's cleanup time. Capoch able to push out now with the number advantage. Going to be in his favor in just a few seconds. I think the palings, did they get used? 1 or 2 look like they used it, but most of them haven't yet. They don't want to stand still. And the Lombos have gap closed now, so you're going to see a lot of casualties for ACCM. And now the Horse Archers as well. ACCM gets just out of range. The Horse Archers won't want to chase in just yet, but look, the Horse Archer army numbers are in favor of MarineLorD, and you can see VNS starting to suffer. In fact, he might lose all of them. Looks like he'll get the last few away. Remember, VNS is going to scale better in the coming minutes because he has that secondary TC. I think he's actually the only player in the entire game to build 2 TCs right now. Yeah, I can't see anyone else having a secondary TC yet. So this is going to be a huge boomer for him. At the moment, though, you see MarineLorD, he's getting his own type of boom, right? He's getting all of the relics that he can find. We'll see how he utilizes that, whether he thinks about eventually going to Knights himself to back up Hera's army. Could be a cool idea. But for the moment, it's just Horse Archer spam. MarineLorD, uh-oh, gets pinched. Hera, where are the Knights? Okay, Hera? Hey, what? I'm sorry, are they discussing whether they think they want to be with blue anymore? Like, well, I mean... We did like blue, but purple's so much more French and fabulous. Can we wall across? Because Hera just had these knights standing here. I don't even know how long. So that's a bit of a whoopsie daisy. Gives a little bit of edge. Better trade now for the side of Vietnam Legends. But keep in mind that the number advantage on Lombos is still there for Capoch. Doubling up now ACCM, as ACCM did actually take the brunt of that attack. Which means that VNS was able to build up Horse Archers in response, right? Because we did see MarineLorD, he kind of frontlined a lot of his Horse Archers and lost a lot more than he should have. I believe both players, yes, both players have cracked the 500 mark now. So they are getting optimal gathering rates, and that's just going to boost VNS even further, especially when he has this kind of lineup, right? Look at the berry bush locations. There's a lot of safe food here right now for VNS. He doesn't have to expose himself anytime soon. And I love the fact that he preemptively puts down wooden fortresses that can also be utilized for these woodlines later. It's just extra defenses in the event that you get gang bushed here, right? And considering that, you want to have a lot of people working on the berry bush line and the gold line here, you know there's going to be more than 10 villages here that need protecting. Nice snipe up MarineLorD, stopping VNS from collecting up. Sacred Site in the center did get capped by MarineLorD for a moment, but they're going to have to back off quickly. Knights trying to plow in. MarineLorD running off with another one of these relics. He's just gathering so much. What a greedy boy. Hera doesn't want to get too close. This is a lot of firepower coming his way, even with his resistance, his missile resistance being at 5. It could be dangerous. And Capoch still sitting in feudal. It's tough to get up as England, right? You have to keep these numbers up. Now up to 48 longbows, he might start to consider it, right? Maybe look for that tech up now that you've got the transition in. Right, you've got your farmlands down, you've got good surplus coming your way. I think it's time to get a vet longbowman if you can. ACCM might not be in the same situation. He has to wait a little bit longer considering he's behind. And that count is still looking rough. 27, a few back in base. It's still a difference in favor of Capoch. So Capoch, definitely the superior England player at this point. But look at the knight advantage. Bact. Up at 15 compared to Hera 6. Or was that 8? I think it was 8. Yeah, now 7. Still a big advantage. And all the sacred sites have been capped by MarineLorD. I love this out of MarineLorD. He's being a greedy boy, but he's utilizing the his bonks to the fullest, right? He's actually capturing these sites to give himself even more gold trickle. If we look at the income per minute, MarineLorD up at 729, and I'm pretty sure 0 people on gold. Yeah. For comparison, VNS has 400 gold per minute, right? And he's got 11 people. So you just see how much more efficient your economy is still staying. And that's the power of Roost, right? Playing into those gold trickles from the hunting cabins, from the relic banking. Just allows you to chill your economy, even if you're only on 1 TC still, which is still the case for MarineLorD. Fight engaging. MarineLorD having to back away. I believe, yeah, that's a big tech advantage. Look at that. So MarineLorD, he's kind of been being this pseudo frontline, right? He's been cannon foddering these horse archers a lot. So he did get his hands on the extra health, the extra 20 health for the all cavalry units, the Boyard's Fortitude, but he didn't get his hands on these tech ups. Notice the difference here. It's 12 damage compared to the 14, not to mention the 2 range resistance for these horse archers belong to VNS, means he is vastly superior to that of MarineLorD. And MarineLorD is just kind of a glorified tank unit at this stage. Control of the center is still maintained, by the way, by the 2 Southern players. Really important detail here as well. And the Lombos are moved in. They're engaged upon Bact. Getting blocked out by Hera. This is really well played, the way they're kind of ganging up to hold him back here. It means it's really inefficient trades for the purple player. And Bact, most of his knights are already dead. There's just too many Longbowmen here. And once they are gone, what's going to protect ACCM? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. As you can see, Hera, he breaks through straight on top. And remember, the big difference here, not only the number factor with the Lombo supporting, it's the fact that Bact is the only player in this game still sitting in the feudal age. And that is costing them so much ground here and so much to this game. ACCM in full retreat. Damage still coming in. And you think it's a small difference. Look at this difference. 2 extra missile resistance. Not to mention the extra health on these veteran Royal Knights is making and breaking this game right now. And the worst case scenario is Bact. Bact, the weakest player, is your front line. He's your cannon fodder. But his cannon fodder is not cheap and it's not efficient because he still could not afford to tech up. And he went for a second TC, and this will be punished. Lombo's in. Capoch, looking to scalp as much as he can. We'll back off for the moment. ACCM, not much of his army left. Meanwhile, in the north, look at this. MarineLorD, he's starting to catch up now to the 13 damage mark. No Boy's Fortitude still coming out of VNS. Wallalo on the south side is going to force away the villagers from the food, which means that Bact is going to be starved. He can't afford any more troops. Really big deal here. And with that, holding their ground at the moment. Palin's come down from ACCM, but he has to abandon a run. Hera still diving even deeper. It's mainly just him right now because, look, Capoch, he backs off to set up the rams, finds the stone outcropping as well. And in the north, we already see MarineLorD now starting to choke around VNS and block him in. And this is the gold superiority. He's able to trade for extra food and wood. And if we look at his base, look at the number. Look how many it is. He's up to 5 archery ranges now. He's outputting more. Even though there's 5 archery ranges for VNS, VNS can't always afford this. You can see on the wood, right? He's suffering a little. And he's running out of a wood line soon. And if that happens at a critical moment here, and he's drained for half a minute, he's going to get overwhelmed by horse archers alone. And they need him in the south side. But he can never be there is the problem. Warrior Monk just looking for a little poke with a stick. Not to quite find it. Meanwhile, in the south, battering rams are moving in onto the School of Cavalry. Lombos are going to be pepper pigged down so easily. And these feudal knights are just pathetic from Bact. They achieve nothing. Hera has quality and quantity. What do you do against this? Well, you could try tapping GG. They might not feel like they're at that stage just yet, but with the battering ram halfway through the School of Cavalry and your ecos looking exposed, not to mention the fact that you're never getting any reinforcements from the north, this game feels like it's on the clock and almost done. Because remember, they've still got the sacred sites, and it looks like Bact has given up. He GG's out, and Vietnam Legends will give up. HMC will take game 1.